Aaron Fowler.
I'm Jessica Reeves.
And this is Crash Course U.S. History, Cronin style.
The War on Terror has been going on for a long time, but what was the catalyst?
The terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, known infamously as 9/11, shattered the nation, and on this day, George Bush declared the War on Terror.
Most of us know about 9/11, but let's recap. This horrible tragedy will always be remembered and mourned, but there were outcomes that helped to strengthen national security. On September 11, 2001, 19 hijackers took over 4 planes. Let's go to Dennis with the map.
Hijacked. American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston to LA had 92 people and crashed into the north wing of the World Trade Center. United Airlines Flight 125 from Boston to LA had 65 people on board and crashed into the south wing of the World Trade Center. American Airlines Flight 177 from BC to VA had 64 people on flight and crashed into the Pentagon. United Airlines Flight 893 from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco had 44 people on board. This flight was unique, however, since the people on board received news of the attacks and knew what was happening. The passengers and pilots fought back to regain control. Though they didn't save themselves, they did stop the plane from crashing into a building or monument. The plane crashed in Somerset, Pennsylvania, to be remembered as heroes for saving hundreds of lives.
The political and social impacts of 9/11 were profound, as we still feel some effects today. The cost of the damages and responses were billions and billions of dollars.
The estimated cost of the amount it took to plan and execute the attacks was only $50,000. The estimated loss during the first 2 to 4 weeks after the attack was $123 billion. The cost of the World Trade Center damage was about $60 billion, and the value of the emergency anti-terrorism package approved by Congress on September 14, 2001 was $40 billion. The cost of the aid package to bailout airlines was $15 billion, insurance claims were $9.3 billion, and it took over $750 million to clean up.
Clearly, these attacks cost the U.S. billions of dollars, which would only add to the nation's debt. However, a lot of money was donated by Americans attempting to aid the cause.
9/11 sparked a declaration of war on terror by Bush. This would go on to be a fight with not only the Taliban of Afghanistan, but also Saddam Hussein and the terrorist regime in North Korea. On December 13, 2001, the government released a video of Osama bin Laden taking responsibility for the attacks. 9/11 forced an increase in national security.
The Department of Homeland Security was created in response to the attacks. It merged 22 agencies into one, including Customs Service, U.S. Coast Guard, and Immigration and the Naturalization Service. The Department of Homeland Security placed 130 U.S. inspectors at strategic ports to inspect for smuggling. The Homeland Security Advisory System was enacted March 12, 2002. Now let's go to Bianca with the mystery document.
It's like it's time for the mystery document. The rules here are simple. I read it and attempt to identify the mystery document. If I am right, Erin does not get hit with baby tomatoes. But if I'm wrong, she does. So let's get started. Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America. With the daring members of our rescue workers and the caring of strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government emergency response plan. Our military is powerful and is prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to help those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. This is a primary document regarding the 9/11 attacks, and it must have been from someone who had high political power. It probably was from Andrew Jackson. Sorry, Aaron.
You guys?
That was George Bush. What the heck?
The Patriot Act gave the government more leeway in domestic surveillance activities. In April 2011, the National Terrorism Advisory System replaced the Homeland Security Advisory System. International support was received, and NATO declared that the attack on the U.S. was considered an attack on all the members of the alliance. Immediately following 9/11, some attacks did occur on Middle Eastern people. However, social response was mixed, and for the most part was supportive and sympathetic. Rather than tear the country apart, the country came together to support each other and aid the cause.
People turned to religion and dedicated their goods, money, and services to help the cause. Long lines for donating blood formed and charities were created and expanded. The cooperation and support was unbelievable among Americans, as people let go of their differences to help each other.
The heroic efforts of the first responders and others who helped work in their own ways will always be appreciated and remembered. Here's Bianca with an account of the day from an
Became victims of this horrendous event. However, there were some who were lucky enough to survive and tell their stories to this day. In an ABC News article from 2011, the studio asked citizens to share their real fear, your September 11th stories, where I learned the captivating story of Jeff Romaldo. In his story, he said, "I'm a wood sculptor and was in Manhattan exhibiting my wood sculptures with a friend. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, I had planned to go to the restaurant at the top of the world, in the World Trade Center. Fortunately, that night was the first good night's sleep I had since arriving in Manhattan 2 weeks ago." So you can imagine what I felt when the woman on the radio announced that a plane had just flown into one of the Twin Towers. Ever since then, I have been documenting my experiences in Manhattan and continued after the World Trade Center disaster.
Now let's go to Rachel with the thought bubble.
Since 9/11, we have seen an increase in national security. We especially experience this in airports. Though we all hate waiting in those long lines, airport security helps to protect us while we travel.
The events of 9/11 will live in infamy, and those who lost their lives will always be commemorated and remembered. The courage, cooperation, and compassion shown after the attack created an impactful and prominent response. Though the day was an immense tragedy, improvements were made in national security and the battle against terrorism. 9/11 will always be remembered as a major event in history. This new era of war on terror would bring about a huge struggle and more conflicts in the Middle East.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.